Hi there, I'm Stan Baker, one of the hosts for Circle Forum, along with Shelley Steele and Steve Young. In this episode, we discuss how challenging it is to get community agencies on board with student attendance concerns. When you listen to this conversation, what you'll really notice is the size and scope of the issues that lead to student absenteeism. I think learning and understanding more about community agency involvement with student attendance is really important because it can help schools recognize their limits and promotes positive collaboration with agencies like child protection, mental health, and policing. If you're currently feeling all alone in addressing attendance, then this episode is for you because it can give you some places to start. For example, it's important to recognize the depth and complexity of the issues faced in student absenteeism. Schools and districts are often firm with other agencies, but often not fair. And figure out what the student needs and then decide who can help. At the end of this episode, be sure to visit our website, www.restorative.ca, where you can find a lot of good free restorative resources. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Circle Forum. And now let's head over to this discussion with Shelley, Steve, and me, Stan. One of the questions that comes up quite often is that attendance is not a community issue. It's not seen as a community issue. It's not raised as a community issue. Why is it that schools are having such a challenge bringing attendance concerns to community agencies and getting their involvement?
To say we're all working together, we're still very much in silos in all our different agencies. And so it's easy to say the child's not coming to school. That's a school issue. So that's yours, people. You got to take care of that because they're not coming to your building. We take care of this. We take care of that. And I think so. We've got agencies, support agencies are completely overrun, understaffed, and have had to make some difficult decisions, underfunded. And so it's easy to say, not going to school, so that's a school issue. But as we know, that's not the case at all. It's actually a community issue.
I think it has changed over the years. I've been in the game for 35 years, and I've seen a shift in how people have perceived attendance and the issue of attendance. It used to be seen 35 years ago when I got into the game. If a kid was absent, it's because they just weren't coming to school and it was the kid's fault. They called the parents and the parents kicked their rear end and the kid should come to school. But now we're seeing, and we had attendance counselors back then who were basically renamed truant officers. They ran around and tried to collect kids up and get them to school.
Lived
But
through
then
that time.
the shift came when they realized that a lot of the attendance issues were based on some real needs in the family and the community that weren't being met at school. And so all our attendance counselors now are social workers by training because they realize that it's not just a kid's not coming to school because they don't feel like it, although that can be true in some cases. There's bigger issues out there that need support and need help. And attendance is just a symptom of a bigger problem. It's not the problem. And so we need to get at those causes of all those that and sometimes it's beyond the school. So the challenge and why don't we do it well is it hasn't been part of our role. It is now part of our role. And it's taking time for us to learn that it's part of our role to connect with all these outside agencies when a child is struggling with attendance. And to Shelley's point, they are very siloed. So it's a lot of hard work to get a group of people together, the permissions and all the kind of forms that have to be signed. And just to sit down and have a 10-minute conversation, it takes hours to pull together a meeting for a 10-minute conversation. So it is time consuming on the administrator's part. So there's part of the challenge.
I was just going to say, but we have seen things happen. Often they need to be mandated. There has to be a governmental push behind it. And what comes to mind quickly is how we support children in the foster care system graduating. Because for decades, we knew that these kids were not making it to graduation often for many different reasons. But nobody came together to have that discussion. It wasn't until this was mandated that intervention plans began to happen for these youth. And then we saw them be supported and graduating and moving on to post-secondary because there was plans in place for them. but it took a governmental agents levels to say, you guys need to have these conversations.
So, when you think about how schools deal with community agencies and you think of the social discipline window, where do you find schools and school districts operating most? In the two box, the four box, the not box, or the with box?
Oh, I would say for a lot of kids, it's probably in the not box.
That's what I was
Unfortunately,
going to say, Steve.
uh, it's such a lot of work. And so it's easier just to ignore it and pretend it's not there. And so we just won't do anything. We'll just keep pressuring the parents to get the kid to school.
Or
Not
we
box.
will do something, but then we'd hit roadblocks. So then we
Right.
can go, oh,
Yeah.
we tried that.
Yeah.
It's just
Tried
too
it.
tough to break.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I think a lot of schools are just it's a time thing. And to your point, Shelley,
Yeah.
it's mandated by somebody that this has to happen, but are they putting the supports in there for that to happen? In other words, if we say you're going to have to do all this, okay, but I only have 24 hours in a day. You didn't give me a 25th hour. When am I going to try that? Or are you going to find somebody else to come and support and help me do that?
Usually not.
So we need to backfill all these mandated um, plans with the people and the time to do it all. So it can be a struggle to have those supports in place. But I would say that the two box, for the most part, is where a lot of teachers land with schools land with a lot of absentee problems. I'll give you your homework. Yeah, we'll collect all the assignments that you miss, and when you come back, or we won't. You don't have to worry about the stuff that you miss. Just keep moving forward. We're doing a lot of things for kids. I should say the four
Yeah,
box,
4.
2 box. We're doing a lot of things for kids to try them, make them to be successful, because we know that maybe it's not always the kid's fault.
Yeah,
So
but my question was more about agency to agency. So, school to community agency. To me, it feels like schools operate out of the toolbox. I'll tell you what you need to do as a mental health agency. I'll tell you what you need to do in terms of child protection. So they're very firm. There's
Yes.
really high expectations of what child protection needs to do, what mental health needs to do, what the police need to do. And the interesting thing that I'm observing is that all those agencies are dealing with schools exactly the same way. They're all running to the two box to tell others. And really, where a lot of the collaboration seems to break down is that the support that's needed to do this, you nailed it in terms of mandates coming down to say, this is what you have to do, but where's the support? We need to integrate students into the classrooms when they have different types of special needs, but the support isn't there. So it's firm, but it's not fair. And I wonder, how can we help schools to get out of that firm but not fair, or out of the not box, in order to bring attendance back onto the community, or even just to bring it onto the community radar and agenda?
I don't think first of all, I don't think this is a school by school project. This is at board level, where the people who can make decisions, can change policies, can commit to things. They are the folks that need to be at the table. Now, to have a voice from schools around their challenges, or voices from these agencies or their challenges with schools, that's important. But those that are sitting at the table looking to change policy, or how we're going to work together in a different way, needs to be at the superintendent and above level.
Yeah.
With the supervisory of those other
Yeah.
agencies.
And I agree with what you said there, Stan. Schools quite often do act in that two box, but so do all the other agencies. So when you do finally have a meeting, they're all sitting around telling everybody else what they should be doing. And so how productive is that meeting? Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. And they're saying, well, here's what you need to do.
I always love it when somebody tells me what my job is and tells me what to do. And the thing is, as school districts, I think we've been doing that. We've been telling others how to do things, and then we don't really appreciate it when a community agency in mental health tells us how to do our job. And so now what we've done is we've created a situation where people have their backs up as
Right.
agencies, and they become defensive, and that just works against any type of
Yeah.
collaboration.
Probably one of the most successful meetings I ever had with community agencies was a student returning to school from acquired brain injury from an accident. And we met down in Toronto. We drove down to Toronto with my special ed teacher. And we sat around, there was over 30 different professionals around that table, plus the parents, to deal with this student coming back to school who had this acquired brain injury. And it wasn't everybody telling everybody else what to do. It was everybody explaining what the child needed. And so we went around the table. I was listening more than anything. Went around the table saying, here's what he needs. Here's what he needs. Here's from my perspective, here's what he needs. Okay. Here's the list of what he needs. Now who can help with that?
Right.
And that's when the hands, we can do this and we can do that.
I love it.
It was a fantastic meeting.
Oh my goodness, that's
It was
awesome.
when you sit there with 30 people, you're thinking, we're never going to get out of here. But it was about 2 hours. And my teacher and I just sat there, and finally we said, we can do that. Or we can do, no, we can't do that, but we can do
Right.
that. Or we can provide this. We've got somebody at school. Oh, great. So it was a very productive meeting. Of course, everybody's taking all their own notes, and everybody has to have permission forms signed by their own professional agency. So we had to get past all the paperwork.
That took an hour of the meeting.
That took that, yeah. But it was very productive because it was all about, let's figure out what is needed. Now, who can help? And I think that's the approach that we need to start taking. So we almost need to create a different structure of how these meetings take place. Not, okay, you tell me what your job is.
Schools will not be able to address student absenteeism on their own or in a vacuum. Schools need to find new ways to collaborate and share in order to deal with the complex needs that surround student absenteeism. Find out more about our work on student absenteeism and restorative practice, www.restorative.ca. Send me an email, stan@restorative.ca, and let's make working with our community agencies about partnerships, not about telling others what their jobs are.